Alright, hello everyone. So this is going to be the last Solidworks tutorial we're going to be doing for the video series. So with this last tutorial, we're basically going to show you how to do the assembly and how to put all your parts together so you have a finalized um, assembly of what your actual, say, robot or whatever you're assembling together would be. So for this, we're going to go to File, Open. Actually, not Open, sorry. File, let's see, and you can just go to File, Make Assembly from Part. That works very well too. So when we get to our assembly, what you're going to do is you're first going to look at which actual part do you want. So we got our car body and our wheel here. So we're going to start with our car body. Just kind of place that in there, right? So we got our car body in here. You started your assembly, and this part is basically stuck here. It's anchored in place. You're not going to really be able to do much with it. So now what we want to do is start putting our wheels on this, actually. So to start that off, we're going to go back to Insert Components, and we're going to enter in a wheel. Makes sense? So once we got that wheel, you can kind of drag it around in 3D space, move it a little closer, move it up, and just basically move it around as much as we want. Well, so one thing is it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to just move it around as much as you want, and there's a little bit of a tool that can help us with that. That's called the Mate tool. So if you go up here, it's a little paper clip, it's Mate. So what you're going to do is click Mate, and say you just want to make two surfaces coincident or adhere or just connected. Well, basically, you're just going to click on one surface and maybe click on the other. Now the default is coincident, but you also got options such as parallel, perpendicular, and just it allows you to join your components. Multiple mates will typically lock down an object. So we made the two objects coincidence, and just adjusting my wheels around, let's say that's about where I'd want to put the wheels on this robot. Looks about right. Or this car, sorry. So that's about where I wanted to put it on this car. So once we got one wheel, that's fine and all, but we definitely want to input more. Well, what we could certainly do is just input more components and simply just place them all as close as we can possible to the others. There's a much more methodical way of doing this. So to start this off, we just kind of want this part. Well, first we want to make sure this part is locked down. So we'll go back to Mate and go back to this surface, and we'll just lock it down. What lock does is essentially once those are mated, I can click and drag this, and this, as you can see, it's fully defined. It cannot be moved. That means this object is joined and they're completely connected. So now what we're going to do is something kind of neat. So we're going to do something called linear component pattern. You can also do this actually with sketches. You can create linear sketch patterns where you're basically duplicating an object or a pattern over a distance, linearly at least. So let's go to our wheel, select it, and we could do, say, linear component pattern. That'll probably work. So going into this menu, it's rather simple. It says what is the direction we want to move in. Well, just clicking, I guess, on the back of a robot or a sketch plane, whatever works for you, you can get a direction that you want this to move in. This little dial right here basically says number of instances. So it's the number of copies or multiples of your object you want. Right now it's set on 1, so you only see the current wheel. But if you actually set the actual wheel to 2 or even 3, you can create multiple instances of that wheel. So with that, looks like that wheel's about where we'd want it to. We could adjust it, maybe increase its distance back. I'll drop it back to where it was though, because it looks pretty good. Wheel looks as if it would be functional on a car right there. And then all you got to do is hit the check mark. You also have a Y component as well if you wanted to make a linear pattern somewhere like that. But we're just going to stick with this easy, simple linear pattern. Check it. And now you got currently 2 wheels on the other side. Again, we could simply go to this side, place a new wheel, and we could duplicate it. We could also just make the wheels on the other side concentric with this flat surface. We could also then make the wheels, the rims of the wheels, or these little circles, right? These outlines, concentric with each other so they're connected to the base of the car and basically like parallels directly in line with the other things. But even then, that's a lot of work. We want to make our work as easy as possible. So something I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called reference geometry, because I want a plane that goes right down the middle of our assembly. Maybe it's something I can mirror something about. So we're going to go plane, and it says first reference, second reference. Well, I'd kind of like to make a plane. See, that's I could just make a new plane there, or I could also select this. And now, because I've selected two reference points, I'm actually creating a midplane between those two planes. It's a very good way of making a midplane between a robot. So that kind of looks like a good midplane, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit the check mark and create that plane. Now the neat thing about this is you can actually do component patterns about planes. Specifically, if I select these two wheels, or even better, if I select this wheel, if I select both this wheel and it's all of its patterns, I can actually go to linear component pattern, drop down menu, and hit mirror components. Now of course you need a plane to mirror, which we just created one to mirror this about, and we can simply go to our area right over here and plane one, just select it, and that's what we want to mirror the component about. Hit check mark, and now you've just basically shortened all your work by using reference frames, reference geometry, just basically creating planes and lines in order to actually help you in your construction. You could simply do all this by hand, it'd take you a while, or you can just even more explore SolidWorks and the tools it has to offer, and it'll allow you to basically assemble things a lot quicker. With this, essentially, you can think about the hour or so I spent on this. It's very good just to try making little things like this in SolidWorks. The more familiar you get with the operations, the more you'll be able to model, the more you'll be able to assemble. And if you really wanted to, I mean, this is a very detailed or moderately detailed outline of what you wanted to do. It wouldn't be very difficult, say for Robotathon, to just sketch your certain parts out or model your parts out, make sure they're the proper dimensions, and that way you can just put them on a robot and or a frame. You can design your frame, design your parts, and just put them all together in the places you think work best. And eventually you'll pretty much have an exact image of what your robot looks like. And that's awesome because then all the matter is just assembling it exactly as it is in your document. That's part of the beauty of SolidWorks, is because as a design software, it works excellently for assemblies and making parts. Well, that will be all for this last SolidWorks module. I want to thank you all for giving the time and watching this. Good luck with your projects.